Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Ball, the YouTube channel where we discuss big picture NBA. Today we will be going over the Chicago Bulls. In this episode of the offseason, we're going to do things a little bit differently than other episodes. Typically we do a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and a most likely scenario. However, this time I think it would be better to just do a state of the roster and see where they can go going forward. The Bulls have a lot of things off the court working for them. They have the third largest market, they have a very good fan base, and there's that whole number 23 that hangs up in the rafters, along with those 6 NBA Finals trophies. So let's discuss how the Chicago Bulls can return to their glory years on this episode of The Offseason. The Chicago Bulls have kind of been bathing in mediocrity ever since Derrick Rose got hurt. Losing the youngest MVP in NBA history was very detrimental to this franchise. And Jimmy Butler tried to do what he could, but let's be real, he never really was a top 10 player nor a championship caliber player. Not saying that Jimmy Butler can't ever win a championship, but he's not the kind of guy who can lead you to a championship. So as we start the state of the roster, let's look at who they got in the Jimmy Butler trade. The big cog in the Jimmy Butler trade was Zach LaVine, a shooting guard with extreme athleticism and a slam dunking extraordinaire. Zach LaVine, in my mind, peaks as a top-notch 6th man in the NBA. I like to look at him and think of a guy kind of like Lou Williams, where he can bring a ton of energy off of the bench. However, as a starter and your lead scorer, you're asking for trouble. Another player they got in the trade was Kris Dunn. Kris Dunn probably needs to go. He's a great defender at the point guard position, but he's not anything offensively. At his peak, he's probably a good backup point guard for a team that has a superstar level point guard. This keeps his minutes at the near minimum. It is very, very difficult to be a point guard in this league when you cannot shoot. And that is what we have seen out of Kris Dunn. The other big part of this trade was swapping the Timberwolves pick at number 7 for the Bulls pick at number 16. This allowed the Chicago Bulls to move up and draft Lauri Markkanen. Coming out of the University of Arizona, I was very high on Markkanen and still am to this day. He hasn't been able to stay healthy for a full season. However, when he has played, he has been extraordinary. He has very good athleticism for a 7-footer as well as a terrific shot. The Chicago Bulls definitely won this trade, as the Minnesota Timberwolves had big problems with Jimmy Butler, as was well publicized this past season, and ended up trading him off for Robert Covington and Dario Saric. So where did the team go from there? Well, they went out and got Wendell Carter Jr. in the draft this past season, and they made a trade for Otto Porter Jr. Moving forward, however, I believe Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be a solid rim protector and could be a starting caliber center on a NBA championship roster. Lauri Markkanen as well, I believe, is a championship caliber player in the near future. He's not the kind of guy that's your number 1 dude, but he could definitely be your number 3 scoring player on a championship caliber team. Think Kevin Love on LeBron James' Cleveland Cavaliers. One of the things that they could do to help these big men develop is bring in another big man, a veteran presence big man that sit behind both of them. And I think that's a perfect spot for Joakim Noah, a high effort, can't shoot big. These bigs can already shoot, so they don't really need to learn that part as much as they do the how to get rebounds, how to protect the rim, how to defend pick and rolls, which Joakim Noah excelled at in his time in Chicago. I also believe that Zach LaVine needs to stay on this roster. However, pretty much everybody else can go. Otto Porter Jr. specifically is making max contract level money and has no business having that money. At best, Otto Porter Jr. is a bench player on a championship caliber team. Going forward, they need to hope for more number 1 overall picks. I understand that sounds like a, well, duh, who wouldn't want a number 1 pick? But if Lauri Markkanen is going to be this team's Kevin Love, then they're going to need to find their Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, both of whom were number 1 overall draft picks. This next year's draft in 2020 is going to be a very, very good draft. If they could pull off an Anthony Edwards in that draft, that would be huge. Anthony Edwards is a young, reclassified player who is going to be tearing up college basketball this season. Get on the hype train now, because it's coming. Now, what do the Chicago Bulls do about the coaching staff and front office? If you want to develop these young players, you cannot have Jim Boylen as their head coach. This guy really tried to make them run suicides. These guys make millions per year, but get on the line and run suicides. You cannot do that with professional athletes, and as we saw publicly, it did not go over very well. He has completely lost that locker room and has no chance of gaining it back. I expect that we're going to see more fallout from the FBI investigation into the NCAA and college basketball as a whole, and I expect them to be able to pull off a very, very good college coach in that. Now, where do the Chicago Bulls sit in this year's draft? The Bulls are running into a problem where they need a point guard desperately, and there's not going to be a top-notch point guard available whenever they pick. However, next year's draft has plenty of top-notch point guards. I could see the Chicago Bulls taking Kobe White, however, I really don't know if that's the correct move. Only time will tell. If I were the Chicago Bulls, I would be trying to move down to where the Charlotte Hornets are picking. This way you can try to get a first-round pick in next year's draft that might end up in the lottery if Kemba Walker walks. I think the new style of tanking is going to be trying to stack up as many lottery draft picks as you can get. With the flattened lottery odds, more teams will have more chances. If you take up those picks, you have more chances. So what do you see going forward for the Chicago Bulls? How do they return to the promised land? And be sure to tune in to my next episode on the Atlanta Hawks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below. Thanks for watching.